I know, like, you're somewhat older than me, dare I say. Just a little bit older than me. So I talked about, like, turn of the century, 2000s, late 90s. Like, me, the financial content that I was consuming really did have this thing about retiring by 40 or becoming a millionaire. What has your experience been?
Yeah, when you asked me to prepare this, I think my head went the same way. It's like, what did I want early days and now what do I want? And I think I was the same. Maybe there was some book that said retire by 40 or something, but I think in my 20s, there was a few years into working life where we get to the stage of, okay, is this it for the next 30 or 40 years until the government tells me I need to retire? So that's when I started exploring, obviously, investing and thinking outside the box, whether that be ownership of business or side hustles, whatever that might look like. So I think and this isn't a cop-out for not retiring at 40, but I think the closer I got to 40, the more I realised that I actually didn't want to retire, and I actually was enjoying my life or my lifestyle more than I ever had. So, and this is probably, we'll expand on all this throughout the
episode, if you will.
Could be an episode. But yeah, I think it changes over time, doesn't it, for everyone? And that's the key. And I had it written down here, there's no template.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I reckon my whole shtick from doing this podcast, doing the books, doing the content, all the stuff is, Monday doesn't suck. Your life sucks.
Yes.
And what do you want to retire from? Like, what are you escaping from? If you hate the commute, that could be the thing that's just pissing you off.
Yeah.
If you hate your career. So,
or your kids.
Yeah. Like, that's my whole thing. Like,
yeah.
The week doesn't suck, the year doesn't suck. Like, your life sucks.
Yeah, it's a really good point.
But how can you make it to not suck?
Yeah. Work from home or
yeah,
move. Like, a lot of people that I talk to are actually making a courageous move and saying, well, I'm coming out of Sydney, I'm going to live somewhere else that's half the mortgage, because that means I can travel overseas every year for the next 20 years, or like send my kids to good schools, or like there's a whole range of different things that people can do if they take that courageous step. So I also feel that when I was growing up, probably not your generation, it was more of a do what's been done prior, whereas now I think the next generation is like, well, no, I'll just do it my way. I'll create my own version of this. And obviously the introduction of not get rich quick, but the amount of wealth that people can accumulate in such a short time means that people have real choices as well.
Yeah. I like to tell people, well, sometimes I tell people, and I'll tell people now, when I left the workforce, so at age 25, and started my own business, I effectively retired then. I retired from the workforce. And then ever since then, I've not really, like, yeah, life sucks and, it's hard at times, but I've never really had Mondayitis. And so all that to say, I just wanted to do a bit of an episode to set the year up, because we're still at the start of the year. It's February now. My call out to you in listener land is forget retiring, and we'll talk about it, but what do you want your life to look like? And it's a very philosophical question, and social norms overlay stuff, right? Oh, I couldn't quit and work a 4-day work week, or I couldn't do this, or I couldn't do that because of the social norms. And we have to break all social norms. The social norm that, oh, my partner, he's going to stay home and be a full-time dad.
Yeah.
It causes so much outrage.
Yeah.
But it's like, how about you shut the hell up? We'll do what we want that suits our life. Thank you.
Which is courageous, isn't it? It takes a strong-willed, courageous person with a lot of drive to be able to do what traditionally hasn't been done in maybe in their family line or family tree or friendship group, or so there's an element of that. But you mentioned the word retire a lot. It's lifestyle, isn't it? It's like, well, if you're going from work to relax or transition mode to lifestyle phase, it shouldn't be the end of the world. Like this is the thing that I've never really grasped is the government said, I think early days it was transition at 55 to retire at 60, I think, and now it's 60 to 65, isn't it?
But that was more of a super tax.
Correct. But that's where people are sort of getting it in their mind. This is how long I need to work until the government says I need to stop.
Yeah, but the biggest myth or the biggest thing that's out there, people think retirement age is age 67. But that's not the retirement age. The retirement age is tomorrow if you want.
That's right.
The question is, where are you funding your life from?
Yeah, and I suppose we'll get into it in much deeper detail, but when you look at how much you want and when you want to do it and all of that, I think the key for me is what are you actually going to do post-working? Because I see so many people older than me that have retired in their own minds. They've built up to this period in their life where, okay, and teachers are a good example on the old super scheme, 59.9 or whatever it used to be called. So they had the index pension for life.
Yeah, they had the defined benefit.
Yeah. So it's like, wow, at 60, I'm actually still really fresh and alive and alert mentally and physically. What am I doing? Like all of my friends are still working, and so I think really understanding what you want to do with that next phase.
Yeah, funny you say that because it's actually really a bit privileged, but whatever. I had to stop using the word. So in my online bios and stuff, I used to say Glen James, retired financial advisor. Now, I had retired from financial advice. Okay. We changed the word to former financial advisor because people thought I'd legitimately retired and not doing anything.
Yeah.
So I had to change it to former. I changed careers. But the crazy thing is when it comes to, this retirement thing, what are you retiring from and what are you retiring to? And honestly, there was that old quote, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And back to the boredom thing, over the last couple of years for me personally, I mean, I'm pretty sure we got on the podcast wave pretty early, right place, right time, right thing. First few years, literally printing money, which was awesome. And I was on a bit of autopilot, and I'll give everyone a bit of an update in the after party about that autopilot thing. And the thing was, I would call my friends during the day, like, what are you guys doing? Want to hang out? We're working. So I was getting bored.
Yeah.
And that's odd. And obviously there's a few layers there. It's like, well, do you have a hobby and all that stuff? But anyway, so what I've asked John to do is I want you to talk me through maybe just 2 headline points that you think people really need to understand to get the most out of what they have and if they were going to retire early. And for the purpose of this conversation, I just think we say retire early. Let's call it under 60.
Yeah. So that's average.
And I mean stopping being, as the cool kids say, fired. Financial independence. Yeah. I've retired early. I do not need an employment source of income to sustain my life. So what are your key things or one of your first big things that you want to talk about?
Yeah, so there's a little bit of crossover, but I'll start with this point that I sort of half raised before was if it is 60, the average male, female lives to about 84, 85 with technology and medicine and everything else. So there's 25 years not only to finance and to understand if we're sitting here at age 35, there's 25 years to make my passive income or win Lotto, whatever. But what am I going to do with that 25 years post me saying I'm done, don't come Monday? I've now got 7 days a week, 365 to basically do what I want when I want. So we've really got to think that out and say, well, that's what my drive might be to achieve that by 60. And I've read this book that says I can do it, and I've got a plan to go and do that. And if I put away X amount to super, and if I create these passive income streams over here and over there, it's going to equate to 150 grand a year, and that's fantastic. At age 60, I'm on track to hit that with a 7% per annum growth rate, blah, blah, blah. At 60, what am I doing? Like you mentioned before, when you were a former financial advisor, what are you going to spend your time doing? Because I think we use about 10% of our brain. On some days I feel as though I use a lot less. So what are we going to be stimulated by post 60? Have we got friends that are also on that same line? Have I got a partner? Have I got kids? Well, they'll be working. Am I a golfer? Do I like riding motorbikes? Do I go out on a boat? I think I don't want to be a Debbie Downer to say, well, it's a crap idea to retire early, but just think about how you're going to transition through to actually make your life worthy. Because if it's not worthy, we can easily fall down the rabbit hole of why do I exist? What am I doing now? Am I actually enjoying this time? Because I've seen so many people swing around and actually go back to work, even if it's part-time, just to be motivated and stimulated and dress as though they're going to work and not lazing around. So understanding your own personality as to how you fill in your time and be motivated by that.
And I reckon for the like this mindset thing, and particularly for those that are starting out maybe in their early 20s, there's a couple of rules of thumb that I think are universal. But if we look at the big rocks in our life, the like big financial rocks, where you live, what you drive, what you do for work, who you marry, there's probably a fifth one.
If you're having kids.
And yeah, if you're having kids. Like, so if, for example, you are spending a lot of money on rent, and everyone's probably like, yeah, I'm spending a lot of money on rent. You know if you are spending a premium amount. You know, a couple of years ago when I moved to Newcastle, the rent I was paying was $1,000 a week.
Premium.
And I knew that was premium for me. And then I was just like, you know what? I don't actually need, like, this is nice to have the nice home in a premium suburb and all that. And then all the soft costs of the yard. So I moved to an apartment, saved $300 a week on rent. Done. So, and that's what I mean. It's expensive everywhere, but you know deep down if you're indulging a little bit more than you should or can or all that stuff with rent. So like looking at those big rocks, if you are, and everything's like a ledger, and I talk about this in the Glen James Reset online course, which is out. It's a free goal-setting course. Everything is like a balance. If I spend more on rent, on my car, on XYZ, the money has got to come from somewhere. And you need to look at how do you optimize each part of your life. How do you say, okay, we've only got this much coming in. How do we get the most bang for our buck? And the other universal thing other than those big rocks are everyone has income and expenses. And, you know, pretend this phone here, if you're watching on YouTube, hello everyone. So pretend this box here is your bank account, being really basic here. Money's coming in here. Expenses are going out the other side. Inside this box, you need to optimize. How do you get the most bang for your budget buck within this box so less money is going out to expenses and lifestyle and into your future. And that's the key. Personal finance and managing money isn't hard. Dare I say, spend less than what you earn, invest the rest. Now, there could be some structural things. You may be getting a bit overindulged with rent. You may have a car that you shouldn't have. Did I tell you about my new car? We'll save that after party. You may be driving too much car. At what cost? Well, it's at the cost of your financial future.
Yeah.
And I'm okay if you've got this moment right now and you're like, oh, yeah, you're right. That's okay. We all kind of get to the point where it's like, I shouldn't have done that. I learned a lot about myself last year. I wish I've known 5 years ago, 10 years ago, but it's okay. I can course correct now. The problem is if you stay in the situation that you're in, financial situation like premium rent, car you can't afford, luxury holidays, living on the line.
Eating out.
If you stay there and don't change, don't whinge.
Yeah, the future's going to be impacted. So, yeah, it's a
Or
balance.
you take the view, I don't want to take any less out of my lifestyle. So it's the input of income in.
I need to create more income.
I need to create more income. So, and this is the whole thing. We need to get to this critical mass in our life where when we do have a pay rise, we don't just spend more money.
Yeah. And that's where the percentage system works well, doesn't it? Regardless of my income, there's a percentage that's being kept for future.
Yeah, I don't know. I just, like, yes, 100% you're right. But I just think you just need a system that you can actually ensure you're spending less than what you earn and investing the rest. But then this goes to there could be different seasons. I'm spending less than I earn and I'm saving for a home deposit. Awesome. I'm spending less than I earn. I'm saving for an investment property deposit. Awesome. I'm spending less than what I earn, but I need $20,000 for a master's level certification that will allow me to increase $30,000 a year in earnings.
Yeah.
Awesome. It's that practicing that financial posture, if you will, spend less than what I earn, keep that happening, my income increases. I don't need to buy more expensive house to live in. There's no point. So
Yeah, and I think maturity, as you get older, for me anyway, you start to appreciate I wouldn't call it basic, but just the important things in life rather than the flashy, I suppose. And it's like what I thought I wanted back then, I actually don't want now. But I was maybe told that that's what I should be aspiring towards.
yeah, as they say, youth is wasted on the young.
And